Huge show today. Zahara Bishop joins Pat, but of course we're talking UConn. But first, let's vibe. Welcome, everyone, to the latest and greatest episode of Pirate Vibes here on the Big East Energy Network. I'm joined by the other Vibeaholics. I'm still trying to get that into the lexicon. Like, I got to think of the name, the Vibeaholics. Tim Best, the founder of Vibeaholics, the name. How are you, Tim?
Doing good, man. Got a lot to be happy about. So we'll touch on it, but I'm pretty sure everyone knows why.
And then, of course, Pat Madden, I'm going to call you the beat. The guy on the beat, because you're doing a lot of different things. Me and Tim just show up for the show. I do Big East beat, but like you're working during the day with your real job, doing interviews and all that kind of stuff. You're the man on the beat. I'll give you the credit. How are you, Pat?
Thank you for that.
I actually it was funny. I fell asleep with YouTube on my TV, and I woke up and you guys were on my screen on my TV. Like my YouTube was just going, and it was the episode that we talked about Media Day. And I woke up. When I finally got my conscience, Pat was talking about how that was the most journalistic stuff that he's done ever. The week that he was going to the women's and all that kind of stuff. And now Pat's still back on the beat, doing more journalistic stuff with this interview that Zahara Bishop will be later on, the freshman phenom for us. All right, gentlemen, we're going to start right here. Top 25. Tim, you're like, out of the three of us, don't take this wrong way, you're the biggest cheerleader. Like you're the rah-rah guy out of the three of us. I think you're the sunny side up kind of guy in most cases. What does the top 25 mean for this team in this program?
First and foremost, though, I do prefer my egg scrambled, but your assessment though is right. I'm not going to just sit here and say that I'm not the most rah-rah out of the three of us and like the biggest cheerleader per se. Concerning I was the president of the Bluebeard Army, when I peaked in my adult life at 20.
You didn't peak then. You still climbing your adult life.
I kid. But like getting on TV every single night, but
fair enough.
Every home game, like it's pretty damn neat. But yeah, getting in the top 25 for the first time in 4 years, like. It doesn't feel real that it was that long ago, but it has, even though 2024 definitely should have had their opportunity to get in at least one of those polls. But yeah, it just felt so good to see a number back next to our name. I'm not going to lie, though, when 1 o'clock rolled around, I was a little worried that we were going to get short. We were going to get the short end of the stick. But I'm like, keep going down. Okay. Come on. And then 25. Yes. Like that was my honest reaction in real time to seeing that the top 25 poll refresh for this week's poll. So yeah, but I think if we've seen the not the second Seton Hall gets a number next to their name, more often than not, they've lost it the following week. So I'm hoping that this team's different, and we have emphasized that a lot. And I'm hoping that they'll prove that by having a good week at home and stringing together a couple wins to keep that number next to their name.
Definitely. Pat, what'd you think about getting the top 25? I know you shared it with us first, I think. I think you told me before I could figure out. What'd you think as soon as we got the top 25?
It was something that was kind of predictable, although I guess the way that the poll shook out, there were some teams that were below us last week, in terms of the getting votes that jumped us to get, like a Utah State, for example, was 23. But again, this is a validation. When you're 14-2 in the Big East, you deserve this type of recognition. Now, again, I think we talked off camera that Villanova's what, 12-3. So, they were 12-2 or 11-2 last week and couldn't get. They just missed it, and of course, then they lost to Creighton at home. Whereas we beat Creighton at home, which might be why we have a ranking now, as opposed to that. The voters have liked this for about a month. We lost a little bit of ground when we lost the Villanova game right before Christmas, but we started making it up in the last couple of weeks. And now this is just something which is sort of like the validation of Shaheen Holloway's great comeback this season, that he has managed to get Seton Hall back in the rankings after such a long period.
Definitely. Big news here. The first all Big East ranked game is Seton Hall and UConn this week. How crazy is it to say that out loud after seeing all the preseason predictions and all that kind of stuff? Like, everyone was talking about, like, people thought I was crazy by putting Seton Hall in the 8th place in the conference. Like, it just, like, I was real high on them by putting them in 8th place. But now they're the first team with UConn, obviously, to have a head-to-head matchup in the conference ranked. Like, how big of a deal is it? Like, it is a big deal. I don't care what Villanova fans say.
Absolutely. I think that it's, again, and then you've got the big spot on, what's the game on? It's on True TV, which, a lot of people poo-poo True TV, but they play NCAA tournament games on True TV, and you still have Turner people doing a call on that game. So I think it's a big matchup. Again, we probably thought it was going to be like, I think UConn's already played Marquette, if memory served, and that was a possibility for the first ranked game of the season. I think a lot of people are looking at those UConn St. John's games down the road as the most likely first matchup in the Big East between a ranked and a ranked. So we beat them by about 3.5 weeks.
Well, St. John's isn't ranked, so whatever.
Right, but I mean, people when the season started thought that that February 6th game that St. John's is going up I forgot when St. John's.
I think it's at MSG that week.
That's the one in New York. Okay, so when they thought that would be the first ranked versus ranked game, and of course they also thought that both teams would be in the top 10 for that game. So I think, again, this is the one thing. Well, we'll get to this in a little bit later. It also means something for UConn because for some reason UConn usually plays a game against a ranked team differently. I know that there was some chatter talking about their game at the Paul on Saturday when some people thought that UConn, pulled back a little bit late in the game, even though they were up by 23 with 5 minutes to go, and they had the game clinch, depending on what metrics you talk about. So, does Hurley did these guys find another gear or extra motivation because they're playing a fellow ranked team when they head into Newark tomorrow night?
Yeah, Tim, when we talked about the schedule, when it came out, the Big East schedule, we joked, hey, UConn is going to lose to us. Like, we were at home. I think this is worse for us because they are really going to focus in, because this could be their biggest win for the rest of the way. Is that something to look at, where, like, Hurley is really taking this game super serious, even though we know he takes every game serious, but, like, this is meaningful now more than.
Well, it's meaningful in a number of ways. Obviously, because of the fact that, Dan's a Seton Hall alum, and he's going up against another Seton Hall guy in Shaheen Holloway, who has had his number at the Rock. Even when they were awful last year, UConn still lost to them in Newark in a game that it blows my mind that they blew that game. And Seton Hall ended up winning it with all the wacky stuff that happened in the final minute, and Dylan Dewuzu tying it for the 3 to send it overtime. Just absolutely bonkers stuff. But now that this is ranked versus ranked, my immediate thought when you brought that up was the Paul Rudd meme of being like, hey, look at us. Who would have thought? Not me. Like, that's about how I feel, and a lot of Seton Hall fans probably feel about that, because of look at where these teams are picked to finish in the preseason poll. UConn was second, even though they're ranked higher in the AP poll at the start of the year. Seton Hall was picked to finish dead last. And now here they are, top 2 in the league as it stands right now in terms of who's ranked the highest. Now, Brian, I think you do have a point. I think this could be, if UConn wins this game, this will be their biggest win of the season, except for maybe Kansas.
No. What I'm saying is
in the Big East.
In the Big East. This is for the remaining part of the season. This might.
Yes, of course. And I saw some tweets recently about UConn's trying to exercise their demons. And speaking of Kansas, one of the places they were trying to exercise, they exercised their demons in the Fog back in December, and then they exercised. I forgot where else they exercised some demons from another thing you're trying to get payback from something in years past. And then
Florida.
That's
not a spot as much as it was Florida beat them in the tournament last year.
Yeah. So now, So like this is like the final stage of like the three things they wanted to conquer, which is winning at the Rock. Which it's funny seeing when Seton Hall beat NC State in Maui. I remember UConn fans were tweeting like Seton Hall is treating NC State like they're UConn at the Rock. So it's funny that they acknowledge that this is a real thing, but for Seton Hall now, they got to just go in there, just forget about what's happened the last 3 years and just focus on the now. And it's crazy. Yeah, the only time UConn's beaten Seton Hall in Newark since they rejoined the Big East was the infamous Bryce Aiken I ain't never missing game with barely anyone in the crowd. Never forget. I know it's horrible because it was just such a bad look for us, but it's so objectively funny. I'm sorry. It just is.
Pat, is this the best out of this winning streak? Is this the best squad for Seton Hall that Danny Hurley's had to beat in Newark since Shah's squad?
It's again
last four times. Is this the best one? And that includes the NIT champs.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, how does it compare to the NIT champions? Seton Hall's walking of a better record. Yeah. I was talking to somebody else about this.
I'm not talking record. I'm talking straight team.
Right. I was talking about this yesterday. I mean, think about the fact that 2024 team had been blown out on several occasions before they went into that UConn game. They had been blown out by Baylor. They had been blown out by Iowa. I think somebody in the Big East had blown them out beforehand.
Was it their first? Wait, was that their first?
Oh no, the 2024. That was the 2024. My mistake. But they'd still had the blowouts against Iowa and Baylor before the game at the Rock when Klingon got hurt in the second half, and they won by 15. So they had already suffered some, and they had lost to USC. That team was struggling a little bit heading into that. They lost to Rutgers at home as well.
Yeah, they looked terrible.
Yeah, so that team was struggling. That in terms of going into this game, this Seton Hall team is in a far better position. The Seton Hall team that won the NIT got better as the season went along. Whereas, we'll see where this team goes after tomorrow night, win or lose. So, I think in that sense, I also think there's more talent. When we break down some of the matchups, we'll have to make a comparison. I mean, one guy who was on that team 2 years ago who would probably give them a little more trouble tomorrow night was a guy who killed them a bunch of times, and that's Kadari Richmond. So I think Richmond would be the question is Bud Clark going to give them as many headaches as Kadari Richmond in Bud Clark's own way?
Well, let's go right into it. Let's compare point guard versus point guard. Demery, Bud Clark. Compare them, Tim.
Don't leave Malachi Smith out, by the way.
About Malachi Smith. I'm just going with starters right now because you could talk Trey Parker too. I'm just
right.
The guy that we're projecting that's probably going to have the most minutes at the point.
I mean, let me give you what worries me about that matchup is that Demery is 6'4", Clark is 5'10". It's you got Clark does too. Clark works on speed, but Clark also has hands he has a hard time controlling. Whereas Demery's also drawn a lot of fouls as well. Demery's been in the foul trouble. So it'll be interesting to see, whether or not Demery can out-physical Bud Clark or whether or not Clark is too quick to let DeMary run roughshod tomorrow night. But I don't know how much Clark is. It's going to be hard for Clark to interfere with passing lanes because he's 6 inches shorter and some of the other stuff. I mean, bigger guards have given Clark some difficulty. You know, I remember Katie and Lewis a few weeks ago. So
Katie and Lewis is the one. Tim, how about the shooting guard? We've got a wide range there on the shooting guard. They have solo ball for the most part. Braylon Mullins, I guess you could consider a shooting guard. That's obviously the toughest roster that we've faced all year. Talk about the shooting guard kind of matchup. I guess you can throw the small forward in there too.
Yeah. So Solo is he's by far UConn's top scoring option. I mean, there are streaks where like I watched the Illinois game they played at the Garden over Thanksgiving weekend, and he looked phenomenal in that. And he's made a lot of big shots, including at Kansas, which, you know, to get a big road win at the Fog, it takes big shots to do that. And Solo gave them those big shots. He's a big shot maker, although I think he missed the potential game winner the last time they met in Newark. So I know he's going to come with a chip on his shoulder. And then you take a look at, I mean, because you can interchange, you know, who's at the, because I can't really say Staten McCrae's a 3 for Seton Hall. I mean, if by starters, he's the 3 just by virtue of Williams being 6'3".
It would be Mike Williams, yeah.
Like, and I actually love seeing Trey Parker play the 2 a lot of the time, especially down the stretch. Early in the season, I was like, I wonder what's going to happen. Like, is Shah going to pair Bud up with Trey and see what happens? And it's been great so far. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. He's going to continue to do that. I think everybody knows that. So, yeah, Solo at the 2. Trying to remember who the heck. I know Caravan ain't the 3 because I know
Mullins.
The stretch.
Oh, Mullins is
Mullins.
That kid is probably the best pro prospect they have on their team. That kid can shoot as soon as he drops. As soon as he crosses midcourt, he's in range.
Yeah, I think he reminds me of like he's like a more refined version of Liam McNeely from last year. I think that's a good way to describe what Mullins does for this UConn team compared to McNeely. So yeah, the size could spell some trouble for Seton Hall, but you see how well they rebound. So I'm sure that they won't think of it as that big of an issue because they faced bigger teams at various points this season, and they hung with them on the glass. I feel like winning the battle on the boards is going to be easier said than done against the squad because they are just as physical, if not even more physical than the Seton Hall team when it comes to rebounding the basketball. But they know they're going to get into a dogfight, no pun intended. And I think the backcourt matchup could dictate which way this matchup swings.
So Tim talked about the backcourt. Pat, what about the front court? Because they have a pretty good tandem down low. This is probably the best tandem that we've faced all year. If you throw Caravan into it, I know he's kind of like a stretch 4, but he still does play the post. You got Terrence Reed, you got Eric Ribe, like Aribe, whatever, the German. Talk about the post.
Well, again, the question is, does the Alex Caravan factor mean something tomorrow night? You know, and Caravan, when they played at the Rock last year, had mostly an off night. So Caravan, I still think he had like 12 or 13 points in that game, but he was not really. He had a couple in the second half to give Connecticut the lead briefly, but he was not the factor he's been in a lot of other nights. But if Caravan is on, you know, Seton Hall is going to have an almost impossible task. Reed is a guy who still gets into foul trouble.
Yep. And
then the question is when you put Ribe in there, you know, Ribe's facing 2 bigs who play big in Stephon Payne and Najee Hines. So Reeb may not be able to do the damage that he's capable of on the boards and what he's capable of doing inside. Of course, Reeb also has some outside range that Hurley doesn't really like to expose very often. So in terms of, You got to try to, challenge every shot that Caravan tries to make. So you put him off. I think that's an assignment which Josh Rivera is well primed for, and Elijah Fisher should be ready for that, because Fisher has seen Caravan on a few occasions in the past. And then the key to Reed is get him in foul trouble. Whether it's Clark driving the lane, whether it's Trey Parker driving the lane, whether it's Stephon Payne, whoever can find a way to get Terrence Reed in foul trouble, that's the goal. If you can get Reed off of the court within the first 5 minutes of the first half, and you're dealing with Reed for 15 minutes, Seton Hall might be able to do a lot of things on the inside that they would not be able to do if Reed was there. So I think that's something you got to think about if you're Shaheen Holloway, and focus your game plan on getting some of the key Huskies in foul trouble between Reed and Silas DeMary.
Tim, you got any insight on how to beat UConn? Pat just said one of the things is attacking Reed, get him into foul trouble. You got another secret to beat the Huskies?
I mean, getting them in foul trouble is...
Are we just going to pray?
Nah. It's not that I don't think UConn's all that, because they are. They're a damn good ball club. Not quite as good as the 23 and 24 teams that won Natties, but they're a very formidable foe.
Hold on. Before you go on,
I think it's close, actually, Tim.
I think this team is more talented. I don't think they're as far along in the progress of being a champion. I think this team is more talented than them.
I think Klingon is far better than Reed or Reeb. And I think Klingon was the reason why. I mean, the Seton Hall got lucky 2 years ago when we beat them, that Klingon, A, got in foul trouble early, and B, injured his ankle early in the second half. Because I think if Klingon plays his normal minutes, we couldn't have competed with that Connecticut team. So I'll get back to Tim's point about comparing this year's team to the UConn teams that won championships.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it's not that, it's more of like me not thinking that UConn is all that. It's more of the belief that we're a damn good basketball team. We can hang with these guys. And the track record shows that even when we're vastly inferior, which we're definitely not in this case, we can still find a way to win. And trust me, I will say this until I'm blue in the face, because I know that the coaches and the players all tell themselves good teams find a way to win, and they're going to do everything they can to find a way to win. That Villanova loss, I think, really emboldened them. And it's just crazy to see that the 3 wins they've had, they've overcome a 10-point deficit, a 16-point deficit, and an 11-point deficit. So if they get in a hole, I feel confident that they can dig themselves out of it. It might take us some time, but they can, and they're more than capable of doing so. So I think not letting UConn get off to a great start. The things I'm worried about with Seton Hall, it's not that what UConn is going to do. It's more what Seton Hall is, that what they should prevent, that if they don't, it'll really kill them. Look at what happened when they got down to Georgetown. Georgetown was shooting the lights out from 3, but inside they struggled. And I feel like that happens so often with this team, where someone will go off from 3-point range, where they're shooting somewhere 40 to 50%, maybe even better from 3. But inside they're under 30%, which for, I think, the entire first half, I think that's what it was, a similar line where it's 40 to 50% from 3 at halftime and under 30% from 2. So if they can prevent UConn from being streaky from 3, contesting the threes well, that will set the tone for them for their entire defense, because the 3-point shot, as we've seen, has become so revolutionary over the last decade. And 3 points are more than 2. And if you allow UConn to make a flurry of them, and Seton Hall can't make threes like they did against Georgetown, yeah, it's gonna spell a recipe for disaster. I can tell you that much.
This is by far the best shooting team that we're going to see all year, right? This is better than Villanova's right now with Braylon. Solo, I know Solo's not shooting well, but Solo is a good shooter.
Yes.
Right?
1,000%.
Oh, absolutely. The one thing that would scare me about falling in a big hole is that I think UConn has better playmakers than Marquette, Creighton, and Georgetown. And guys who have done it. Caravan has done it. DeMary has done it. Reed has done it. Ball has done it. So when, as opposed to in the last 4 minutes of the game, we're not playing, let's say Malik Mack and KJ Lewis and Caleb Williams, who obviously none of them could find a way to make a play in the last 4 minutes. And we're not playing guys like Chase Ross and Ben Gold, who forgot how to play basketball the last 3 or 4 minutes of that game up in Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago. We're playing guys who have been battle tested, not only this season, but in the past. So that if UConn gets in a situation, let's say like Creighton got in the last minute of that game a week ago Sunday, where they have to make an inbound, they have to get the ball into the hands of a good foul shooter, and that foul shooter has to make foul shots. The UConn guys I just mentioned, except maybe Reed, are more than capable of knocking down foul shots that might take a 2-point game and put it back to a 4-point game, and then make the job that much harder for Seton Hall if they need to make a stop or two in the last minute or 2 minutes of the game tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think this is one of the teams, like Pat just said, that you can't. I know we're confident that when they're down 14, they're okay, or they're not completely out of it. This is not a team that you can go down 14 and expect to come back. This is not Georgetown. This isn't Creighton. This isn't Marquette. This is like you can't keep getting in those ruts, especially as you take on tougher and tougher competition. Biggest additions here on the Big East Energy Network is Home Field Apparel has joined on. We've joined forces. Get all of your vintage gear. I know we've got gear coming in. I think it comes in this week. It should be arriving at your guys' doorstep this week. Soft, great, classic. Have you guys checked out the site outside of the Seton Hall stuff? Because it's great outside of the Seton Hall stuff. Seton Hall stuff, I think me and Tim talked about this last week on there, where you search Seton Hall and it brings up the 1989 final. That's the only thing that I'm like, the home field, like, we don't need to be seeing Michigan championship stuff. But outside of that, it's great stuff.
The Connecticut stuff's really good too, by the way. If we happen to have some Connecticut fans who are watching, not only do you get some men's stuff, but there's also women's stuff on it. They recollect the 1995 champions. They even have a nice shirt coming off of their most recent national championship from last year. So if they're Connecticut fans watching out of curiosity, the Connecticut fans already know this, by the way. I know for a fact that the people I follow on Twitter are huge fans of the Connecticut stuff. So, if you're a Connecticut fan and you're looking for some old school gear, Home Field has it in. Home Field has anything you can think of. Of course, the same thing applies to Seton Hall stuff. Great old school classic pictures of the old pirate and even pirates from like 30, 40 years ago. So if you want to relive the glory days of the 80s and the 90s for Seton Hall, Home Field has you covered.
Tim, what about you on Home Field? I don't know if you checked it out more.
Yeah, I've been meaning to check it out more. Just the selection, just they have for the other Big East teams, like, you can't miss it. I mean, every single school, like even teams that you don't really think of, like their old school logos, like mainly like the new school Big East teams like Butler, Creighton, and Xavier, like you're not as familiar with the old school logos like we are with Seton Hall, St. John's, Nova, Georgetown. The list goes on and on. But like they got a lot of good throwback stuff across the board. So if you're a Big East fan watching out there, check this site out. Like, you are going to be amazed by what you find. And I guarantee you, I'll bet dollars and donuts, you're going to drop some money to get something from here because it's too tempting not to.
Fair enough. That's Home Field Apparel, the latest sponsor of Big East Energy Network. Talk about the home field. We're going to talk about the spread. The spread right now, I just checked it while you guys were talking. 5.5 favor to UConn. Does that feel about right? Or do you think that's low? Like, because I thought it was going to be a little bit more. I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't think I don't really put a lot of stock in that, to be honest, because I think that when sometimes when you're talking about matchups like this, you throw stats, you throw spreads out the window. It's really a matter of a combination of who wants it more and who brings their A game. tomorrow night. So in that sense, again, this is a situation where if Connecticut is feeling it tomorrow night, Seton Hall is going to be in trouble because when Connecticut's feeling it, and again, we get the chatter about how Connecticut's been playing lately. I don't think Connecticut has brought its A game to a lot of Big East play so far. They didn't play as great against DePaul as you might think they would. They got forced to overtime against a Providence team that's almost checked out this season. So what if Connecticut brings it tomorrow night? I think the only team that might be able to give them a fight would be St. John's if St. John's is hitting all of their threes. So I don't put a lot of stock in the spread because if Connecticut is showing up the same sluggish unit that's shown up for most of the Big East so far, they're going to be in for a rock fight, so to speak.
Rock fight.
Tim, over and unders 129.5. You talk about this every single time that we talk score predictions. You think that's pretty low, I would think, right?
In terms of setting the point total, I don't hate it. I think it's fair. But if you look at Seton Hall's recent games, with the exception of the Creighton game, well, ever since the Villanova game, 2 of the 3 games they played, Seton Hall scored over 70. And then you had that defensive war against Creighton. So 2 out of the last 3 games have been pretty high scoring, like 79-73, 76-67. So I think we're going to see somewhere in the middle. I think it's so funny, by the way, that we came out on the holy side. Like Georgetown got 67, we got the inverse, so we're on the right side, if you will. But yeah, I think that it's somewhere in the middle. I wouldn't be. I think Seton Hall is going to continue that trend. I think it's crazy how fearful UConn fans are coming to the Rock. Even though they're still really good, and there's more juice to playing Seton Hall compared to the last 3 years. But I think we're going to see another intense game. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a 1-possession game again. Give me the Pirates 71-69.
Wow. I wasn't asked for a score prediction, but we're going down that path right now. Pat, what do you got for a score prediction? Are you just going to say
I'm in trouble? I'm in trouble now because Tim just gave us the win, and I'm gonna go the other way. Again, but then again, we a lot of people are talking about the ranking thing in terms of would we rather be just outside again because it would enhance the underdog thing. On the other hand, I don't think even Holloway thinks about that. I think Holloway's just about treat every game like it's the most important game of the season. Even the game against Marquette 2 weeks ago, most important game of the season. The game on Saturday against Butler, most important game of the season. When we play Xavier, even though Xavier's struggling, most important game of the season. So this is the most important game because every game's the most important game of the season. But again, my concern going in tomorrow night, and I would have it sort of 76-68 for the bad guys, is, again, you've got guys who know how to make winning plays on that team, which you will not see much. The rest, maybe Acadian Lewis, maybe Zuby Ejiofor, but other than that, you go down the line, how many guys in the Big East can make the winning plays that Caravan, Reed, Ball, and Demary can make? Unfortunately, one of them is probably going to get the ball in the last couple of minutes and probably do enough to keep UConn just ahead of us tomorrow night.
So Tim was the most optimistic. I called him the cheerleader at the beginning. You were kind of like in between. I think we lose 74-60. I don't think it's that close. I really don't. I think UConn's the best team that we're going to see. I think we struggle with teams that can shoot.
I would point out that Brian has to do the post-game show with the guy who does the hoop.
I do have to go on the live show.
So he's doing an energy
night.
exchange tomorrow night, boys and girls. So he needs to be in good with Mark. So yeah, Mark's
that's not the reason why. I just think this team, like they'd let a lot of 3-pointers, and I think that's kind of by design. They give up a lot of 3-pointers. I think this is the best shooting team we've seen since Villanova, and I think we're going to struggle with it. And I think you're going to see like a Braylon Mullins go off for like 3 or 4. And the thing, like Tim, you said, well, they Monk and not KJ Lewis, but Monk and I'm forgetting his name. We're hitting threes in the first half. They're going to get cold. I think Mullins, when he's hitting, man, he just steps one step further back and he's popping them and he's nothing but net. And then take another step back and pop. Like, I just think he has unlimited zone. And I think the only time we've struggled really on defense is against those type of teams that can shoot. So that's my only thing, is that teams that can hit threes, we struggle with. That's it.
Yeah. So last thing I'll say is that Bud Clark had by far his best scoring output on Saturday. So that's why I feel a little more confident than either of you are. I mean, that's the Bud Clark that we were all expecting to like put together, several of these 20-point nights. So now that he finally got his first one under his belt, we don't need him to do that again. Like, we just need him to just be the Bud Clark that has been the straw that has stirred this really well-operated, well-put-together drink. You don't need him to put up 22. If he could put up 11, half of that, with a healthy amount of assists, causing havoc on the defensive end. I'm going to go back to that video, the video breakdown I was telling that I saw on the YouTube algorithm, why Seton Hall's defense is as good as it is. Bud Clark, he's really cerebral in terms of like how he defends with his hands. When a guy goes down the lane, he times it perfectly when he takes the hands away and shows him straight up to the referee so that he could fool whoever's primary area, referee jargon right there, whichever official that has that primary coverage area. So I think that's when he's at his best. I think UConn's point guards, just their guards in general, between Solo and Demary, I think they're going to struggle with that a little bit. And I think UConn's going to win the return game. I think that goes without saying, as much as I would love to see us sweep. I think getting a split here and getting the win on our home floor, which we just have this trend of doing, I'm just a big believer in the trend, and like I'm a big believer in history repeating itself. So I'm going to stick with it, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I got to live with it. That's okay.
If Bud Clark goes to the line 10 times, more than 10 times, and shoots more than 10 free throws, I think we're in good shape. If Bud Clark's attacking the rim, he did it against Georgetown. If he's able to live at the line and convert those, I think Seton Hall is in very good shape, because that's probably Terrence Reed getting fouls, or that's probably Demery getting fouls or something like that. So, like, I think that is a key stat. I guess we'll go around the table here, but a key stat to look for Seton Hall to pull this off, I think it's Bud Clark's free throws. If he shoots 10, and it's only happened 3 times this year, I think we're in actually good shape. You guys got any stats or anything that you want to look for, or matchup?
UConn's 3-point shooting.
3-point
if they're on, this game's not close. If they're
Damn
off,
you took mine.
The Pirates can. I know. Sorry, Tim. It's the one thing I thought. It's the one thing I'm doing a preview tomorrow night to, which I guess it's going to parallel a lot we just said. If UConn hits threes, they kill us. If they don't, they're in for a fight.
Tim, I'll give you one. We talked about this many times. Turnovers to points. If they're able to create turnovers and force Demery to turn over the ball, or Terrence Reed, I think Terrence Reed actually leads the team in turnovers, which could be offense fouls, right? Or
could be
not catching the ball or whatever. But if we're able to convert their turnovers into points at a higher rate than we have been in the last couple of games, outside of those moments when the comeback, I think we have a good chance to.
Yeah, and I will. The one last thing I'll say: be on the lookout. I know I've emphasized this before. How are the first 4 to 5 minutes of the second half going to go? Because if they shoot themselves in the foot and UConn goes on a run if they're leading at the half and then they extend the lead, kind of like Villanova did, then it's going to be more of the same like we saw against Villanova, but against UConn, potentially even worse because of how much better UConn is compared to Kevin Williams' squad. No disrespect, as always.
Fair enough. Seton Hall fans, if Hall is able to pull out the win, go to the Energy Exchange live show after and just criticize me. It's fine. Just go on there and just light me up in the comments, please. If I'm that wrong, please. But anyways, we'll go on. Pat, a little intro here before your interview with Zahara. Anything to watch out for here, or you just want people to watch?
I would say if you want to see a women's basketball player who is a student of the game, this is the interview for you, particularly when we talk about her high school days, bleeding a little bit into what's gone on in a freshman season at Seton Hall.
Fair enough. All right, when we come back, the vibe check, Pat is going to talk with Zahara Bishop here on the Big East Energy Network, Pirate Vibes.
Yes, and we're back here on Pirate Vibes, and we have a special guest on this episode, Seton Hall freshman Zahara Bishop, who is new to the Pirates. She's had a pretty good start to her Seton Hall career. So, Zahara, welcome to Pirate Vibes.
Hello. Hi, guys. I'm Zahara Bishop.
Okay. First question I would have is, you come from an interesting place in your pre-college career. From what I researched, you played on an AAU team called the Metro Stars. And that puts you in common with a player very well known to not only the basketball community, but more specifically to the Big East basketball community, and that's Paige Beckers. So what were some of your experiences playing on the same AAU program? Not that I don't think you got to play with Paige, but what were some of the experiences that you had playing on that AAU team? And maybe are there influences that Paige has had on your career?
Definitely. Paige has had a big influence in not only my career, but also the Metro Stars program's career. Also, just making it more of like a known program where there are a bunch of good talents around, and that we can show our talents on the 3SSB circuit as well. So, I mean, Paige is an excellent player herself, and she's kind of influenced me also throughout high school, like not only on Metro Stars. I've kind of watched her play coming into high school. She was that's when she showed up on like my feed more coming into high school. She was like more viral, more known, and she's kind of helped me like with my confidence, my mid-range. She was very known that like mid-ranges are very not, like known for players to make and not very useful. Like it's very hard to make a mid-range more than a 3. So it's just like I love my mid-range getting better and better throughout high school. And the more like people told me like, no, don't settle for a mid-range, you should go either drive to the lane or just get ready and get set for a 3. Like I didn't want to kind of give away what I'm good at. So I mean Paige was good at it. So I was like, if Paige can do it, I can do it. So that's what I worked on mainly. Just trying to get better throughout my career.
That's very interesting that you say that, because you're right. A lot of people who look at basketball think to themselves, if you're taking a 16 or 18 foot jump shot, why not step out another 5 feet and get another point for that shot? But if you're more efficient, and that's something which, Paige has done and a few other players who have a few recent players in the WNBA. I'm thinking about another player who plays with Paige down on the Dallas Wings. That's Maddie Seacrest. And Maddie Seacrest plays a similar type style to that. So that's very interesting that you highlight that you were patterning yourself with the way that Paige scores, which is liking those 10 to 15 foot jump shots.
Yeah, definitely.
Who are some other WNBA players that you particularly like to watch, or ones that you're patterning some of your game after?
I grew up since I'm from Minnesota, I grew up going to Lynx games, and at the time Maya Moore was very impactful to me. I went to one of the Lynx camps, got to see her, and I mean her game is like something that I like to play. and she's very like versatile. She likes to do like everything on the court, very athletic. And when I was growing up, that's also someone I looked up to.
So you would say that Maya Moore was probably your favorite player growing up.
Mhm.
Who are some of the players currently who you like watching? Would that include Nafisha Collier, who obviously is the leading player on the Lynx, and some of the other women who are on that team right now?
I like Asia Davis, right? Asia. And then Caitlin Clark is also someone that um has really impacted like my 3-point game also, just not giving up on shooting. The way her range is so deep is just something that I want to like work on, especially in college. But yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll get to a little bit of that later on because I do have some questions about what you're focusing on now and going forward. We're waiting. I don't think you've hit one of those big half court shots. I know that that's
Yeah,
something that's more of Savannah's game. That it,
definitely.
weird question. I just have a weird question about that. Is it something where everyone on the team takes one of those half court shots and then, sort of a player like Savannah is one of the last ones because she's one of the veterans on the team? Or is it just something random like, if Savannah picks the ball up first, she's going to take the first shot from half court?
Are you talking about before practices, like our little videos we take?
Yes.
It's kind of like volunteer, like whoever wants to shoot a half court shot can. I don't think the order really matters. Um, but yeah, I I don't know why I don't choose to do it, but I mean, I kind of just cheer on my teammates that do, and hopefully we get some half court shots every day.
Right. So because we at least once a week Savannah's hitting one of
Yeah,
those. I mean, but of course, she's got very good 3-point range. So that's probably
exactly.
why. And then I think was it last week? I think I saw Kayla Kraft hit one of
Hmm.
those 3-point shots
She
as
just hit
well.
one today, actually, or
Oh,
today or
really?
yesterday. Yeah.
Okay, I haven't. The video hasn't popped up on my Facebook feed yet, but certainly later on, I'll be looking forward to that. I think that's something which is inspiring as a fan.
Hmm.
Not only because hey, there are players on my team who can hit half court shots, but I think that's something which goes towards how you guys rally around each other
Hmm.
as a team and the cohesion of your unit. So let me translate. Let me transfer over to how certain things are. Actually, one question before I do that: how did Seton Hall pop up on your radar? Given that you're from all the way in Minnesota.
Definitely. So me and Jacayla Craft were teammates. I think the year before my last AU season, so my junior year or my sophomore year of summer, and she was also being recruited by Seton Hall at the time and other more schools. So while her talent was also showing out on the court, all my other teammates plus me, our talents were also given out in the circuits and to other colleges. So when she committed, she just also like when she committed, obviously she told me like about the school, about why she committed and everything, and that's like something that I like really love. Like she talked about the coaching staff, she talked about the community and the campus and everything. So that's something that I really liked about the school. But also the coaches reached out to me, I think later that summer after she committed, and then was hoping to see me play the next summer by myself without her playing also. So that was just kind of like a connection through Jacayla almost. And then they were like we really like your game and stuff like that. And I got on a visit immediately. That was probably one of my first visits, my last AAU season. So, and I really liked everything. I liked the community, I liked the staff, the coaching staff, and how young and experienced these coaches are, especially playing with Coach B. So it's just like I love that knowing one of the staffs knows how Coach B coaches and has an experience with Coach B. So.
Excellent. That, of course, is Coach Tony Bozzella. What were some of the other schools that you had gotten offers from? It's a little bit. It's a lot easier to track with the men because they have so many websites. Whereas on the women's side, to get information about where high school players are looking to get offers from or or get recruited by? What were some of the other schools you were considering besides Seton Hall?
Another close option was Cal Poly, all the way in California. DePaul reached out to me later that summer. I'm blanking. Colorado State.
I was
I
going
think Marquette.
I was gonna say, thank goodness that you didn't take the offers from DePaul and Marquette,
Yeah,
given what we've seen so far. so,
yeah.
so let me get into that a little bit. One thing which happened about a month into the season, is that you went from coming off of the bench to getting into the starting lineup. How has that sort of changed how you get ready for a game, knowing that instead of like sitting on the bench and waiting for your chance to come in, check in maybe at the 5-minute mark or the 4-minute mark of the first quarter, when you come on the court for the start of a game?
I wouldn't necessarily say it changed like the way I prepare for a game. I would just say like the waiting time's a little bit longer. Um, I don't really have like a special technique for like getting ready for games. I just go ahead and like go through like just like, shoot around, like whatever we have to do for shoot around, for preparation, I just chew my gum. There's really like nothing really fancy about what I do. But um especially like on the bench, one of my assistant coaches that I work with every day is Dee Dee, and she always tells you that just read the defense, like be ready, like know what the opponents like to do in their offense before you get in the game. When I wasn't starting, so I would be on the bench, not only like seeing how we're playing, but seeing what the defense is running, how are they doing under the screens, what are they gonna do when they push it up the court, like all that stuff before I get in the game, so I can prepare myself. But starting has been like a blessing also because I got to show the coaches my trust and how much I've worked on and off the court. So just knowing the scout beforehand, I would say really helps too. And then making sure that I'm asking those questions, that not just reiterating those questions also that people have already asked or that I forgot, so that I know coming to the game that I know my player and what she does and every other player.
So in other words, it sounds like in your case you have to maybe pay attention a little more to film before, if you're going to be starting the game, as opposed to if you're coming off the bench and you can watch who you might be guarding or who might be guarding you as the game at the start of a game.
I would say that the difference really is just like if I'm starting, I like beforehand everyone's gonna know the film. So even if we're starting or not, like everyone's gonna know the film and know their player. But if I'm not starting, like it's really just knowing like what they're gonna do on the court. Like something could switch up and that we didn't know that they're gonna do what that was on like the film or what we saw on paper. So that's just like kind of like almost like a key like advantage that you have when you're not starting, because when you do start, you don't know what the other team is running. But yeah.
Right, it's something which you sort of that you instead of sort of letting the game come to you when you're coming off the bench, you sort of have to take the game out there and sort of just make adjustments as you go.
Exactly.
Okay, what are some of the things which the coaching staff is trying to get you to focus on more as a player as this season has gone along?
I feel like they really want me to be more versatile on the court, like not only score, as they emphasize to me a lot, but to rebound. And that's also something that I agree with too, that I'm really effective not only on defensive rebounds, but sometimes on offensive rebounds. And they really want to emphasize that on me, especially because if I do get a rebound, I can push up the court and look for others. I feel like something that's really misunderstood about my game is that I can see the court very well in transition. So I just need to work harder and kind of know where the ball's like going after it hits like the rim, and trying to put the effort in to grab that rebound and hopefully push it up the court to make a play.
Yeah, one thing I've thought about in particularly watching the team this season is this idea of having all 5 women go after the defensive rebounds. And then you can run the fast break off of that, as opposed to needing to have, let's say, 2 or 3, because quickness is something I think that the women on the Seton Hall team have. Between Savannah, between Jada, yourself, even Mariana gets up the court pretty well. So is that something that you're thinking about when you guys are sort of playing defense and thinking about getting rebounds?
Yeah, definitely. The coaches have all emphasized all of us to get the rebounds because we are quick and we all see the court very well. And also, when we do get the defense rebound, not only if we don't get a look from like transition or looking up the court, there's always a trailer, so we can like look back and see like who's trailing and see if we can get an open three from that.
Okay, maybe a couple of final questions before we wrap this up. What's it been like being on this team this season? Obviously, you know, college is a transition for you, but what's sort of like the feeling, or for lack of a better term, the vibe that one would get if they had the experience of, let's say, being in practices or being in locker rooms or traveling with the team?
The vibe is more like a family type of feeling to me, almost like I have a bunch of resources, a bunch of connections through not only through basketball but even off campus. And during practices, it's like I say, like, you're not friends on the court, but we're taking it pretty seriously. So I mean, once we're in between those lines, like we're not no friends right now, but no one really takes it that, like, no one really takes it to heart that way. Like, no one like is, oh, like, why would you do this? Like, why would you foul me this hard after practice? Like, they just take it and like leave it on the court because they know like the mentality that everyone has on the court. And even after practice, we all say what we have to say about practice, even if it's good or bad, but we all take it as a lesson and take it as a learning experience because everyone else is learning too as well. And practice is always going to have competition too. We're always going to have adversity. So we all join together and kind of help each other along the way.
Excellent. Now, what are some? Maybe my last question would be: what are some things that Seton Hall women's fans should know about things that interest you off of the court? Is there like are there movies that you like? Are there TV shows? Are there singers?
I'm very like stay at home, chill girl. Like, I like to take naps. I like to watch movies, watch shows. I'm like my very movie genre is like dystopian, like sci-fi movies. So I like action also. But I like everything also. So and also I like eating a lot. So me and my teammates would always go out and find some nice restaurants, nice foods that we'd like to try. I'm not a picky eater, so it's just like I'm not really a going out type person. If I do, it's usually with like a couple of my teammates and trying new things. Like for New Year's, me and Mariana explored New York City and explore like Soho, try new places out. And yeah.
Very impressive. I guess one follow up to sort of to circle back here. When I say the word Juicy Lucy, what comes to mind?
A drink.
No, I was thinking about the famous cheeseburger.
Oh,
that they serve out in your. I maybe you haven't had maybe you haven't maybe that's a good thing that Zahara Bishop from Minneapolis has never enjoyed a Juicy Lucy.
no, I've never heard of that.
What was that?
I've never heard of that.
Oh, okay. Well, just for reference, you'll have to ask about it. What they do is, you know, when they make a cheeseburger, normally they stick the piece of cheese on top of the burger. When this one place, I was out in Minneapolis to see a baseball game. Matt will appreciate that I was out to see the Mets play in Minneapolis 2.5 years ago, and we went to this famous place out there. What they do is they stick the cheese, they cut the burger in half, and they stick the cheese in the middle of the burger. So that's sort of what they call the Juicy Lucy.
Is it good? Do you recommend it?
You know what? To be honest, I didn't. The burgers there were excellent. So it's just weird that the cheese oozes out of the middle of the burger as opposed to the way you would normally eat a hamburger. So yeah. I'm sort of thinking. I feel bad asking you that question because I put you on the spot.
You're good.
But hearing that you're a foodie and hearing that you like going to places in New York, what's your favorite restaurant in New York City? May I ask?
I don't know the name of it, but it's like it's in the I don't know what it's called, but there was like a Italian, like a bunch of like it was just a bunch of Italian restaurants lined up, and like it was like you have to make a reservation, but it was just like an amazing spot to go to. I think it was like My Little Italian Place. Like it's just like a little city of like just
Oh, it's called Little
lined
Italy.
up. Yeah,
Little,
that's what
yes.
it is.
I'm from the area, so I'm well familiar with Little Italy. They have this wonderful thing in the fall called the San Gennaro
Yeah.
Festival, where it's like a block party in the city.
Mhm.
So I've been to that a couple of times. There are no bad restaurants in that Little Italy
Mhm.
section, by the way. And you'll have to come back and tell us the first time you go to the Ironbound in Newark, by the way.
Okay.
That's something which I'm
Yeah.
sure, I don't know if that's a place which Mariana would probably feel at home, because they
Mhm.
have a lot of Spanish, Brazilian, and
Yeah.
I don't know how many Mexican restaurants, but they have a nice melting pot of restaurants there. All right, we've talked enough about food reviews here, but thank you very much for your time. Good luck, particularly you have a big game on Wednesday night at
Mhm.
Walsh against the Marquette team that I know. I
Yes.
remember I talked to Cam Rust in November, and one of the things
Mhm.
she said was that one of the games which the coaching staff was focusing on particularly was Marquette.
Mhm.
So are you guys ready for Marquette on Wednesday night?
Yes, I would say we've been preparing very well these past couple of days for Marquette.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you for your time, Zahara. Good luck the rest of the season. And we'll be back on Pirate Vibes after this.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome back to Pirate Vibes here in the Biggest Energy Network, brought to you by Homefield. Tim, after watching the interview, I'm a little hungry, so I'm waiting for the end of this show. It's Sign Mafia time.
Sure is, pal. So the way I'm doing it this episode, it's like not a to-do list per se, but objectives for our men's and women's teams. Our men play Tuesday against UConn, and the women against Marquette. So here is what we got. As you can see, for the men, had to go with the pull, take down the top dog of the top. As for the women, emphasis on goaling because it plays the Eagles. Sees a golden opportunity. Sole possession of third place in the standings that's on the line because Villanova with the one loss there can't catch them. They're in second. So with both teams at 5-2 in the standings, winner takes over third place in the standings all by themselves for the time being. So I know it's a game in the middle of January, but this is a Marquette team that's picked to finish second in the preseason poll, and they're really hitting their stride. I mean, I watched the game against Creighton last week. They looked really good in that game, like really, really good. And Marquette's beaten them the last 2 times, I believe, inside a Walsh gym. So, which for a while, Seton Hall owned them in that building. So, I know Coach B. I know how important I know how much emphasis he puts on defending home court. And they have had opportunities, mainly against Columbia, that they've squandered. This is their chance to get their biggest home win of the season. I mean, Georgetown, now that they've floundered, unfortunately, quite a bit. I mean, dare I say that we broke them? Because look at what's happened since they lost to DePaul. And DePaul's like 3-14. They were 3-14 coming into that game. So now this is their opportunity to get their best home win of the season, because if we're being 100% real, they're not beating UConn. But this will be, other than Villanova potentially, this could be their best home win. And so you got to take that opportunity, by the horns. And this is going to be a tough challenge. I mean, you're going up against a red hot team, but you're starting to find your own identity. So I'm interested to see what happens, and hopefully we get to see Zahara Bishop, who we saw earlier in this episode. Maybe she gets a big signature performance in her first go around with the Pirates, and maybe get the supplementary help from Codio and Valenzuela and Catalan. I mean, Eads TBD. It's pretty much a game time decision almost every time with her. But if she can play, that'll be a massive help. But if she doesn't, they have the personnel to beat a team like Marquette. So we'll see what happens, but I feel optimistic about that game as well, to the surprise of absolutely no one.
I'm going to double back on your sign there for the women's stuff, Tim. Villanova plays UConn up in Connecticut on Friday night. Or is it Thursday night?
It's Thursday
night. So if the winner...
By the way, if you're watching Big East Energy Network, Villanova's head coach will be on with Holy Nova. Denise Dillon will be on with Holy Nova this week on Wednesday. That's the reason why we're going on Tuesday to open up for Denise Dillon. So that's the reason why we're a little early this week.
Love Coach Dillon. Good for them. Good for Holy Nova.
Excellent. So the point I'm making, Tim, is that the winner of that game will be tied, likely by the time Friday morning rolls around, in the loss column for second place. I forgot where St. John's is. St. John's is 4-3. So St. John's has fallen off of the pace a little bit. So the winner of the game Wednesday night will be tied for second in the loss column. And, of course, the loser will be tied for fourth in the loss column. And, again, there are few and far really, and I said this last week, there are few and far really games which the tournament committee will be impressed with. And Marquette is one of them. So that's why if Seton Hall hasn't put it all on the table in a game this year and is figuring out anything they can do, I would say the Creighton game out in Omaha a few weeks ago was one of them. But this is when you got to sell out. You got to sell yourself out, and you got to get some students in the building. Classes start on Wednesday. You know, nobody's got testing quizzes coming up later this week. So I think, and they're doing a nice little promotion. I think they're giving away shirts in Walsh to the first 200.
You can win. Bazella donated a TV, I believe.
Yeah, there's all sorts of good stuff going on for this game on Wednesday night. So there's no excuse not to have a big student turnout for that game, which should help propel the Pirates to beating arguably their toughest opponent that's not UConn in the Big East this season.
I mean, Seton Hall students, it's silly week. Get silly, but at Walsh.
There you go. Would you say this is a must win though? Like if Seton Hall loses the at-large bid, it's going to be an uphill battle, right? This is a big game for Seton Hall per se.
Yeah. Although, I don't know what. I think this would probably be a quad 2 if they win this game. Most likely. I don't know.
Early bracketology. I know it's real early, but these are the first 4 teams out. Both these teams are in the first four out. So this is for both teams. This is kind of like an elimination game in the middle of January.
Yeah, it is. I mean, these teams are so equally matched that I think I would presume that they're probably going to split. But if one team can sweep the other, then I think that will be the difference maker between one of those teams being in and one team being out. Would it be great if both teams got in? Absolutely. I think Villanova's trajectory right ahead of them. They'll be the second team in, and I would imagine that they'll be a quad 1 team potentially if they can keep on rolling and beating all these other teams. That they'll be a quad 1 game because Seton Hall closes with Nova. They don't close with them the very last game of the season, but it's senior night. That's right.
Senior night is Villanova at Walsh, and then Seton Hall goes out to Butler.
Yeah, so Villanova could work themselves into potentially being a quad 1 at Walsh at the end of February. So, this is one of the best opportunities that Seton Hall has to getting a good quality, upper quad 2 win. So, yeah, if we're talking first 4 out, a win, and if they could do so in convincing fashion, man, that will do wonders for their resume. And again, this team hasn't been to the tournament in 10 years. I think they're due, man.
Definitely. All right, gents, any last words before we hit the road? This is kind of, now we're going on weekly, so you got a whole week, Tim. You got anything to say?
Well, it's going to be this is the week where Seton Hall has to show that they've got that dog in them. And y'all know why I say that, because we got UConn on Tuesday, and y'all know who we get Saturday, the Butler Bulldogs. And Butler's trending downward. So if they lose to UConn, no shame in that, unless we get waxed. But salvage, get at least the split, and you're in good hands, because you go to St. John's not long after that at MSG. And then right after that, wait, don't tell me. It's DePaul. Yeah. And that's in Chicago.
The stretch at the end of January after St. John's is DePaul on the road, Xavier at home, and Marquette at home.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a chance to do that. The stacking up wins should be happening coming the latter half of January for this team, and don't sleep on Butler. I'm Finley Bizjack is one of the better guards in the league. Michael Ajayi could give us some issues with his rebounding ability. Other than that, Butler struggled in almost every other position over the past month. But again, you don't want to let them hang around because they have a little more offense than some of the teams we've played recently. So they have to be careful. They don't want to sit. Butler could sit as a trap game between this Connecticut game tomorrow night and then the matchup of St. John's, which Seton Hall should be really fired up for, given what St. John's did to us last season.
Fair enough. All right. This has been Pirate Vibes here in the Big East Energy Network.
Ahoy there!